galaxy. Trillions of stars waiting to be explored.
Stellaris is now 3 years old, and we had the anniversary free weekend on last weekend, which as of this Dev Diary was from Thursday the 9th till Sunday the 12th of May 2019. However, that does not mean that the Dev Diaries stopped trickling in. No, they are definitely still coming. Stellaris Dev Diary 147 does stick to that topic that many people have been talking about for a long time, and that is sectors. In this particular case, sectors, I think, has been reworked like 3 times already. It was in the base game where you could just build a sector. Then later on, it was a little bit different, where a sector was basically created 3 jumps away from a starting point from any sort of system, and so on. However, I personally don't play with sectors in 2.2, or at least its various patches, because I just don't like the system at all. And I think the guys over at Paradox have realized this, that the sector system currently is not all that great. The sheer amount of feedback that has been online is kind of a testimony to this. So, as of Dev Diary 147, an update on sectors and designations is coming to a PC and or console near you in the future. So, yeah, designations. So that's the first item we're going to be talking about today. We're going to wait on sectors a little bit. Designations are the items that you see on your screen when you just build a world, and for instance, you build multiple energy buildings there or districts, and the planet is automatically defined as a generator world and giving you all sorts of bonuses. However, in the future, you will be able to define your colonies right off the get-go by setting a designation yourself. So, for instance, we have our urban worlds, we have colony buildings, we got mining worlds, agri-worlds, generator worlds, as in the example that we see in front of us right now, and basically we're going to get all sorts of bonuses depending on what sort of designation there is. But also, there is going to be automation attached to this process. Now, what does that actually mean in terms of building this particular system? So a designation automatically sets a building order on your planet. That's completely automated. You don't have to look at it. It will do its own thing for a while, as long as you have the technology to do so, or it needs to be skipped, or if, let's say, crime is really high, and it will automatically build a different type of building. Decisions and all that sort of thing are still completely up to you, although it's not really specified whether or not this is the case. It's very much a build macro in the current shape. Yes, you can currently, as of the current Dev Diary, not define what the build order is going to be, but that is most likely going to be added at some point in the future. No, the AI currently does not have the ability to do any sort of designations, mainly because they are not built for it just yet, and that will come into the future. But overall, being able to set a colony designation and just leave it is a huge deal for people that are playing super wide and don't have time to go through hundreds and hundreds of planets and individually setting what they need them to be built as. And that right there is actually incredibly cool, because I personally like to min-max my planets by specifically building them as I want them, but that's not just for everybody. Some people like to just fire and forget when it comes to their planets. So this is a great little addition to the game, and especially the bonuses for the various worlds are nice. The generator district build speed plus 25% and technician output bonus of 20% is rather cool, for instance, if you have a generator world. I'm actually not entirely sure whether or not this is in the current version of the game. I probably should take a look at that at some point, but hey, what can one do? But yeah, there's a couple of overrides. Like I mentioned, if crime is high, this will trigger a crisis that will build a precinct housing district, which then will ignore the normal build order. Now, you may wonder, how is all of this automation done in terms of budget? Okay, so the following happens. So every single time 3 pop jobs are open on a planet, a building will be built. So how does that actually work? Well, first of all, personally, 3 open job slots, it's not very efficient. If you do it yourself, you generally want to do it when you are at 0, because then you have the building ready for new pops. However, what it does is that there is budget going to be allocated to every single world, and it will just add from a general pool, which is called the, let me take here, the local stockpile or the shared stockpile. Basically, similar to in the past with sectors, you would have a area where you could just say, hey, this is a stockpile of resources that you can get, and then automate your building stuff from that. And that's perfectly fine. That's cool. Basically, you can set, hey, I want to put 30% of my income every month into the shared stockpile, and then all my automated worlds can just build off of that stockpile. It doesn't really impact your main income for energy or for minerals or anything along those lines, aside from the quote-unquote subsidy that you will put in, which is rather interesting. They're going to be doing a lot more for this in the future. There's a lot of work to be done. AI empires, like I mentioned, do not have any build order designations. Players having the ability to set your own build orders is a huge deal. Basically, you can just say, hey, I want this type of world over here. Here's the designation. It will automatically build it for you so that you don't have to remember and bounce between planets just to remember, oh, okay, I need this many things. Obviously, the main problem with this is that not every single planet has the same amount of districts numbers or the same planetary size. So results may differ, and final numbers are, of course, not final. And of course, we're also going to see different governors, and that brings us to sectors. So, sectors, the mostly polarizing thing that has been in the game for quite some time, is a rather interesting subject, because sectors, as they were touted in the past, were semi-autonomous regions that will do their stuff automatically. So in the new system, the sectors will be created by making a planet a sector capital, with its own bonuses, its own governor, and its own various jumps away. So every system in that sector within 4 jumps of the capital will automatically be added to that sector. Now, what does this mean in the long run? It means that there are going to be systems that are going to be left out of the sector, with little islands popping in somewhere, because not all the jump radius are always 100% clear. However, there's a good thing here, because it means that we're going to be seeing nudging between sectors. This means that you can add particular systems to your sector, even though they're not within 4 jumps within the capital range. And that right there is actually really cool. There's a little bit more flexibility. We can modify in our own sectors, have more governor traits that are more efficiently working, and let's say, hey, this sector over here, I want to define this as my energy sector or my agri-worlds, or this sector needs to be self-sufficient. So I want a agri-world, I want to have energy world, I want to have a mining world, I want to have an alloy world, etc. So you can basically build up your sectors as semi-autonomous regions, and that right there is something that is, once again, very cool. But yeah, overall, I think the whole sector system has had serious issues in the past, but now that we are going to be seeing a completely rebuilt version of it, it means that we're a lot more flexible with things. So let's say you have a single planet that is fairly far away from your core sector, and it has a couple of worlds inside of it. You've basically said, hey, this world over here is prime material. It's a Gaia world, size 25. This is going to be my capital. Poof! All the sector areas around you will become part of the sector, and then the planets in there you can then define as, hey, I want to colonize this, and then build on top of that, and then specialize those worlds where necessary. And this can be a very automated process, but not, of course, all the time. And yeah, there's that shared stockpile that we were talking about as well. So yeah, any non-sector system will be referred to as frontier space. And that right there, it basically means that any sort of area that is not in a sector, which you can then define, is frontier space with its own bonuses. Kind of think about Star Wars, the outer regions. They're not part of the core. They are not part of a capital world. There's no ecumenopoli out there. They're all independent. Now, I'm really curious to see how this is going to pan out. Really interesting, and how this is all going to work with bonuses and stuff. I don't think it's going to be as efficient as doing it yourselves, but when it comes to managing large amounts of planets, it's useful to, you know, have this system in place so you don't need to min-max all the time, and especially if you're on war footing and stuff needs to be built and pops need to be moved around, which is something they haven't actually talked about. Yeah, being able to automate this stuff so you can focus on the more important things is very nice. Also, the rework of governor traits is also happening, which is rather cool. And finally, something that has been in the game in the past but is not really talked about ever since, I want to say, 1.7 is the automation of construction ships, where you can just build a sector and the construction ships will automatically fill in the gaps where necessary, whether or not these are mining stations, research stations, and that sort of thing. But yeah, overall, it's been rather curious to see what we're going to be doing with this in the future. And next week, we're going to be seeing something what is apparently going to be awesome. A new system, perhaps, may be added on Thursday. So that's going to be in, well, 3 days from the release of this Dev Diary. So keep your eyes peeled, because this Dev Diary series obviously is never going to end, considering we now have 147 videos in this particular series. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us once again today. For those of you that have been with us for the last 3 years, happy Stellaris anniversary. I know it's a little bit late, but I've been in and out of hospital to take care of my very infant child. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take good care of yourselves, and as always, each other.